Dr. Mirza, thank you so very much for coming. I am so pleased to have you on our conversation here today, and especially that there are so many issues that have come up as a result of your book. Dr. Mirza is the author of 5 Pillars of Prosperity, and at this point, he has published it last year. At this point, he's got about 6,000 to 7,000 copies out there. You get good feedback from these?
Yeah, very good feedback. To my surprise, as you saw the blurbs written by different scholars and different people, it's very positive. One example I can share with you, I was in Bosnia. One of the professor took me around to give me a tour of the city, and he said, after reading your book, I have changed my approach to buying a car. So I said, how? He said, I was going to go and make a down payment and then make installment payments. But then I read your book and I called the dealer and I told him, please wait until I give you the whole money, then I'll take the car from you. So that was very, very pleasing. And there is a Dr. Edmund Sinanovic who works with IIIT. He read it and he said it just changed my completely the approach to finances and how to save and how to do those things. So there have been quite a few people, praising, which surprised, humbled at the same time, and thankful to God that I wrote it.
It has a lot of potential for youth, especially those who want to buy homes, who want to buy cars, who have education to continue. And you have offered it in a very positive way. But in a community and in a country where things are on the capitalist side, how do you help square that, especially if you want to be compliant with the Sharia law?
Right. Yeah, it's a good question, Lisette. I think the approach I took in the book is very much to advise, to guide the young people how they can do things differently than what is done conventionally. And it's not only just a theory, that's the way we did it ourselves as a family. And I'm sharing some of those examples in the book. People need to evaluate and decide for themselves which approach they want to take. I do feel that there is a movement towards living debt-free, and that
Absolutely.
movement is catching on. And I think this book sort of promotes that and shows you the ways and means how you could save, invest, and then spend.
In the West, especially in the United States, when you say Sharia law, immediately people take an adverse reaction to it, at least those who do not quite understand
Right.
it. And I understand that among the things that you are going to promote in and through the Islamic studies was a look at what exactly does Sharia mean, and how can the West understand it in the same way that we understand it in the Middle East. So if you were to set up these universities or these departments for Islamic studies, do you think that there would be a better understanding of it, a better a willingness to even be more open about it?
Right. Yes, certainly. Let me address your first part of the question, Sharia and how it's different and all that. As you notice in my book, I'm taking a view or information from Judaism, then Christianity, then Islam. And my research pretty much showed that all the 3 religions are linked and we're all children of Abraham. Over time, things have developed, whether it is inheritance, whether it is, we are discussing about giving zakah, poor due, or tithing. Certain amounts are given and then, they are finalized and more description is given how the Muslims can do tithing. As regard to the chairs which our foundations have been able to establish, yes, it is bringing a lot of goodwill. In most universities where the chairs are established, we have great scholars who are not only scholars of Islam, but also scholars of interfaith studies. And they can compare how Islam compares with Christianity and Judaism and other religions of the world. So I think it is helping in promoting understanding. And as I'm sure you notice in my book, I'm taking the view that all of us who are either Jews, Christians, or Muslims, we belong to one Father. And then people of other religions are also human beings. And we need to learn how to live with them on this planet Earth. It's not my job to judge who is going to go to heaven, who is not going to go, and whatnot. So if we leave that those differences aside, work together with the common goals and common ethics and common missions and the core values we have, I think we can have a beautiful world to live in.
From your mouth to the ears of the world. How many of these departments have you set up so far?
We are in George Mason University. There is a IIIT chair for Islamic Studies. We have Islamic Studies chair in Western Ontario University in London, Ontario, Canada. We have a chair in Hartford Seminary, and we have a chair in Nazareth College, Rochester, New York, and now with you we are working on having a chair in San Jose State University.
So it'll be about 5 chairs in different parts of the United States. And the hope of these chairs, and how many students do you have in each one of those? Do you know?
Well, in George Mason University, the total population of the university is 34,000 students. So I don't know exactly how many of them are taking Islamic studies or comparative religion courses, but I would imagine it's a lot. Like my daughter Asma was going to Georgetown, and she told me one day that she's trying to get into John Esposito's class, and she's on the wait list. She can't get in. So I'm pretty sure there is a good demand, and recently I've noticed that a lot of people, they want to know more about Islam than in the past. So these professors or scholars are there, and they not only teach Islam, but they also teach other religions as well. They are scholars by their own merit, and therefore, they're teaching courses and others. I'm sure class sizes may vary from 15 to maybe 30, maybe a few hundreds.
So it would be, and this you've been doing over the past 6 years, am I right?
It's probably more than that. I think I would say like 7-8 years.
7-8 years. Okay.
And as funds become available, we did. George Mason was the first one, and then we did the London, Ontario, Western Ontario University, and then Hartford Seminary, and then Nazareth College, and now San Jose State University will be the next.
You have invested a lot of work in education, and this book is also an example of wanting to educate and kind of enlarge the base. Is it something that you just decided to do? How did it come about?
Good question, Lisette. In my mind, gift of education is the greatest gift one can give. I'm thankful to my parents. That's the gift they give it to me. And then from there on, we just manage ourselves and do whatever we can with the blessing of God. So, and that's the gift we try to pass on to our children. We encourage them to get the best education they can. Choose any subject they want, but excel in it. Because we have a lot of mediocres, so we don't need to add on to that. So if you want to study, excel. I also feel that education is a root cause of many problems in the society. Unemployment being one of them. And if we can teach a person how to fish, then we don't have to feed them or give them any charity. We try to do microfinance in Africa, where people can go out and learn how to fix automobiles, how to do electric wirings and things like that. And that is to provide them jobs. I also feel that trying to educate the masses and getting them busy to do useful work for society, we will be eradicating terrorism. Because when the youngest have nothing to do, that's what they will end up doing. So instead of fighting terrorism, my approach will be, which we need to do, but my approach will be to educate the masses, enable them to go into small businesses, become entrepreneurs, be productive members of the society. And once they do that, they are busy and they will not think of doing anything which is not proper.
When you came to the United States, it was in the 1970s from Pakistan. Right. The whole social economic fabric in the United States was totally different than it is today. But at the same time, there were wars of independence in Africa. Right. There were movements of independence in the Middle East that were taking on. And there was a kind of an unsettling in the world. But it was not in the United States. Now it has come to the United States. And when you look outside through digital media and all of this, the world is in sort of a bubbling state. So where there is discord, there's also opportunity. Is that possibility?
Yeah, Lisette, as you know, in Quran, God tells us that with every difficulty, there is ease. So I believe in that. I think, all these things you describe, yes, they are happening, but you always see there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So I think when all this is done and settled, hopefully there will be peace, and we'll have democratic countries where people have opportunities and they are able to participate. What you're seeing in the Middle East and the bubbling is basically people have no rights, and they are fighting for their rights, and it's natural. They are God-given rights which we cannot deny to people, and hopefully our leaders, they will listen and they will grant those rights to them. Just a funny comment. Anwar Ibrahim, who was Deputy Prime Minister of Malaysia, he was giving a talk one day and he said, you Americans talk about freedom of speech. We also have freedom of speech in Malaysia. The only difference is that there's no freedom after speech.
That's a good one. That is a good one. It really does boil down to a lot of rights, doesn't it? In the context of that, the rights, I see, for example, a lot of students in my classes who are anxious about their future, anxious about how to relate to the United States as the country of their birth, anxious to relate to their ancestors as the link to their past. And they are struggling so hard to find where they fit. At the same time, they have this onslaught of connections between Islam and fundamentalism and terrorism and all of this. It is not the atmosphere that you had in the 1970s, where you had a more peaceful integration into the community. What would you advise young students, those who are going into the departments of Islamic studies, those who are around us every day, who are growing up in a country that is theirs by birth, but to which they need to be more connected?
More connected, yeah. It's a good question, and I think it is a challenge for our youngsters. You're right. In 70s, we had more peaceful environment, I guess, but we had much less opportunities. to get together. We used to meet in a Unitarian church in Dallas. We used to drive 20 miles to go to Southern Methodist University to make Jummah, Friday prayer. So those challenges were different. Now we have a lot more Islamic centers, a lot more activities, MSA in most of the universities. We have Islamic Center in North America organizing programs, conventions, conferences, seminars. So we have a lot more opportunities to be with other fellow Muslims and people of other faith to discuss some of these issues. I think my advice will be that we are born here. This is our country. We are Americans, and we have to find ways and means how can we be good citizens at the same time good Muslims. I really don't see a contradiction being in both, because everywhere I can practice my religion, people respect that, and at the same time the laws allows us to do things Islamically, which rules allow us to have Islamic mutual fund, which is the Mana mutual fund, so we can invest our money following Sharia. Rules allow us to do Islamic banking. The OCC, Office of Comptroller of Currency, have given opinions that we can do murahaba, buying and selling. We can do ajara, the leasing, and the banks are doing it. So really we can be good Muslims and also we can be good Americans. And I think the combination of that should produce great citizens. And my view is that people who are religious and Americans, they are usually good people to work with. They have core values, ethics, and they will make a difference in the world where there's no cheating and no lying and all that. So I think the advice to young people will be to understand their faith, and that faith will tell them how good a human being they have to be, and that will lead them to be good Americans.
I had this story. I have to return to this story because
Sure.
it was one of my favorite stories in your book.
Thank
On
you.
page 10, where the difference of 1 cent could take you from greed to deed.
Indeed, yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, this is just it's so simple as an example, and it's an everyday occurrence. What is a cent?
Right.
1 red cent, and yet the difference of 1 red cent in the trade, and I'll have you read that.
Yeah. Is it this paragraph?
Yeah.
The publicly traded company. Yes. Yeah. Having served on the boards of several publicly traded companies, I can attest that the temptation to deviate from ethical practices is always present. For example, reporting 1 cent more profit per share on company's profit and loss statement could mean a stock price increase of 20 cents. And if one owns 100,000 shares or options, that translates to a $20,000, assuming a PE price earning ratios of 20. Again, we stick to our creed, not to the greed. Thank
And
you.
that's I think
And this is really is very much true. As a matter of fact, this example came from when I was serving on a publicly traded company, Milex Corporation, right here in Fremont.
connection.
And I served on the board, I think since 88 to 99, 11 years. And finally we sold that company to IBM. And that used to be the discussion. And the president of the company told me one time that, really, Yaqub, I appreciate what you say and what you do. I said, why? He said, whenever a decision has to be made, you will ask the question, what is the right thing to do? And right thing to do is to be truthful and to say what it is. And as a matter of fact, I did have 100,000 shares and options of the company. And so if we are, in reporting a financial statement, you always have a discretion. You always have to make a judgment whether it should be this way or that way. So there's no nothing wrong or right there. It's a matter of judgment. But my approach used to be, let's make a judgment what we can defend, what we can feel comfortable, what we can say, look, I was on the right side. I did not try to, confuse people or be aggressive in making that estimate. And that's really what it is. You can be $20,000 richer, but then you will feel bad that you misled the public, which one should not do.
And I think that doesn't that put together your entire book, Ethics?
Pretty much. I think to me ethics are very, very important. Person has credibility, ethics, values, and faith. And if we don't have that, then there's no difference between animals or myself. So I think having ethics, and people respect you for that. Many boards I have served, I'm serving. I think the people really respect you if you have values. I just mentioned to you that I was inducted as a trustee last week for Shenandoah University. About a year ago, I was having lunch with the president of the university. I asked her, you know me for 10 years and you like me so much. Just tell me, why? And she said, well, there are many things I can tell you, but one thing is you have your beliefs, you respect other people's beliefs, and you don't try to impose your beliefs on other people. You see? So that, and we need to respect other people's belief because that's the way we should treat each other.
Absolutely.
And even Quran in Islam tells us that we need to deal with people of other faith as they are human beings.
Absolutely.
And we need to respect them. We can eat their food. We can intermarriage and so on and so forth. So why I shouldn't follow Quran in doing that with human beings?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
As a closing question, I think I'd like you to explain to our audience where exactly we are on the funds for San Jose State University, and what is the timeline that we can appreciate to actually start courses.
Right. Yeah, I think courses probably has started because while we're collecting the funds, and I thank you Aga Said and AMA for working so hard to raise money. I know it's taken longer than what we had expected, but that's community projects, and that's where the fundraising goes. I think we are short by like $150,000, and we are committed to match these funds. So whatever it takes, we are not going to be nasty and say, look, here's the deadline, you didn't do it, that's it. We like what you are trying to do. We appreciate San Jose State University coming up with this idea and doing it. Since it took longer to start, I had the conversation with the president of San Jose State University, and basically told them that we would contribute funds as if the money was invested and endowment had paid, so you can start the program.
Okay.
So I think the program pretty much is about to be started. They're in the planning stage, and I think that's a good step. Hopefully by next year we can complete our fundraising, and we'll be happy to match it, and then you will have permanency to this program.
Inshallah, as they say in Arabic. Thank you so very much. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for sharing your stories with us.
Thank you.
And thank you for the encouragement to our students. That's so very important.
Thank you. You're most welcome. It's always nice to see you, and keep up the good work, and you have our support.
Thank you.